I'm Alina, and right now, I'm in grief. My heart felt so heavy that I was unable to control it. It's been 3 days since I started sobbing. My body feels so weak, and my eyes are so puffy. I'm sending my hubby to his last destination in a few hours. His burial is today, and it still amazes me that I would survive to witness my husband's passing and interment in his cemetery. He was a warrior, and I can honestly state that he passed away from cancer. He battled the sickness so valiantly, and he told me he wanted to live right up to the very end. But the illness claimed his life. It separated me from him. I was in complete shock. For 2 years, I was at his side, and we both tried our best to improve his health. All of this, though, was probably supposed to happen. My spouse was and will always be my love. I will always remember him. Every time I thought about our wonderful times together, the dates, laughs, talks, kisses, and hugs, my eyes would not stop welling up with tears. These memories shatter my heart 1,000,000 times over. Without him, I have no idea how I would survive in this world. I'm completely lost. Apart from that, he placed me in charge of a business, and he was unable to get me ready for the fact that I would be the one taking over the firm. Who would have guessed he would pass away from this life at such a young age? Positively speaking, my spouse didn't leave me without anything. In his last will and testament, which he prepared before confining himself to the hospital, he said that all of his belongings will pass to me. But my desire for him cannot be satisfied by these worldly possessions. My heart fell as soon as we got to the wedding. I was in shock that I would have to bury my spouse today. Somber mourners paying their condolences during the burial procedures. I was sobbing and standing beside my husband's coffin like a devastated widow. I couldn't let go of its edge, so I grabbed onto it fiercely. My relatives and friends encircled me and offered words of comfort. My friends and family did everything they could to console me, giving me hugs and encouraging words. My spouse was dropped into the earth following the mass. My body gave out every time he was lowered, and I sobbed uncontrollably. When my spouse was eventually laid to rest, there was an outpouring of compassion. One of my best pals approached me and hugged me tightly. "I'm so sad for your loss, Alina. David was a fantastic man who will be sorely missed. I'm really proud of you for being a devoted and loving wife." The word wife made my tears fall more heavily. My spouse would never refer to me in that manner again. He would never speak to me in the same way. All I could say was, thank you for being here. I was really appreciative to everyone who expressed sympathy and came to support me, particularly during one of the darkest times in my life. "Alina, we're here to help. Depend on us at all times. We'll get through this together," said a different buddy who came up to me and hugged me tightly. I nodded, letting her know how much I appreciated her sincere care. The compassion and kindness I had been getting seemed like a gleam of light in the middle of the darkness. Despite the awful feeling within, Sophia, my cousin, also expressed her compassion to me. "Alina, please let us know if there is anything at all that we can do to help. We will always be there for you because we are a family," she said. "I sincerely appreciate your kindness toward me. You are here for me when I need you." She took my hand and gave it a little squeeze. "Obviously, we are related. I understand that your brother and mother are in the States and were unable to attend today, but don't worry, I'm here to reassure you that you are not alone." She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek before leaving the arena. My brother and mother are missed. I wish they could be here with me right now. They are the people who know me best and are closest to my heart. Therefore, I've always wanted them to console me. My mother runs a tiny cafe in downtown New York and lives with her brother, who works as a computer scientist there. Due to my brother's crucial assignment for a major customer, they were unable to attend. They had always wanted the two of us to come to the United States, but we were adamant about starting a family in this nation. I have no relatives around to turn to, thus I am alone myself right now. I'm grateful for their assistance. it has great significance. As I sat down and began to gently absorb the reality that my spouse was no longer with me, I could still feel my body trembling. My mother-in-law, Patricia, was walking toward my husband's grave when I noticed her in my peripheral vision. Although she approached me with a dejected face, I wasn't blind to the sense of dishonesty in her gaze. She forced a phony grin. "She can feign really well. Elena, my love, I'm sad about your passing. David was a kind guy. My heart bleeds for my son's passing since he was everything to me. I was incredibly in love with him." I couldn't stand the false words pouring out of her lips, so I wanted to leave her chatting to herself. She lied about everything she stated. David would still be alive today if she had genuinely loved and cared for her kid. I could still clearly recall all the times we attempted to ask her for spiritual and financial support for David's procedures, but she was too haughty and conceited to oblige us, only because they weren't feeling well. And why did the two of them argue? David made the decision that we should vacate their home, which infuriated my mother-in-law. She believed that I had persuaded him to make that choice, but the true reasons we parted were her poisonous behavior and mistreatment of David and myself. I gave a slender smile. "Patricia, thank you. We are grateful for your warm words." She simply flashed me another phony smile. My sister-in-law, Chloe, her daughter, came to see us, and like her mother, she put up a brave face. "Elena, the loss of David has crushed us. Do not hesitate to seek for assistance if there is anything we can do to help." I was sick of her pretense. She resembled her mother exactly. She had disregarded our requests for financial support. Furthermore, throughout the whole funeral, I didn't witness one of them cry or even show signs of mourning. They lacked compassion so much. All I could do was tolerate their foolishness. I replied by nodding. "Thank you, Chloe. I'll keep that in mind." I felt suddenly apprehensive about Patricia and Chloe after they left. Their actions raised doubts in my mind. I caught sight of the pair conversing in hushed tones while standing in the corner. I was occupied taking care of other visitors and entertaining them, while also attempting to gather my thoughts and control my impulsive outbursts of emotion. However, I chose to listen in on their talk since I was drawn to them by their appearance. As Patricia and Chloe stood there whispering to one another, I drew closer to them in silence. They were so preoccupied with their chat that they were unaware that I was listening in. "We'll have access to all of their money as soon as Elena leaves the picture. We'll have a luxurious life," my mother-in-law said. My shocked eyes became larger. Chloe laughed. "God, I am so excited. Nothing will remain for Elena, and we shall relish every second of her suffering. David has worked so hard to earn us everything, and we will receive it all. He's your brother as well as mine. Regarding his money and belongings, we are fully entitled." "Well, it's his money, earned the hard way. That girl was a freeloader, simply useless and dumb," my mother-in-law said. She made fun of me and laughed. "So, Mom, how are we going to obtain the funds?" Chloe questioned with a cheeky smile. "I know if she won't give it to us." "I'm aware of your brother's phone password," my mother-in-law said. "I have access to his e-wallet, and he detests making bank deposits." I heard about their evil scheme, and my heart fell. They had been waiting for my husband's passing the entire time, prepared to seize all he had laboriously toiled for. They were wicked. It ouched to hear them call me a freeloader. I never relied financially on my hubby. I created myself on my own. My heart was filled with resolve and anger. Having now come to terms with their motives, I made an effort to remain calm. Taking a big breath, I realized that when the time came, I had to face them and demand justice. I verified all of our e-wallets as soon as I got home and moved the funds to our bank account. I put in every last piece of real money I owned. I had to outsmart and outthink them. I made the decision to sleep well that night since I knew I had everything under control. I had no doubts that our hard-earned money would be secure when I woke up the next morning. I got up early the following day and checked my account right away. I was shaking from the strain of trying to log in. What was taking place? When I kept getting denied access to my account despite my repeated attempts, I became really anxious. I attempted to log in on several devices, but to no avail. I sat at my desk, terrified yet determined. Last night, I was positive that I had everything secured. Negative ideas were all over my head. No, this is not possible. A pop-up appeared on my screen while I was going over our financial records and attempting to figure out why our money had vanished so quickly. No access allowed. You typed in your previous password. As you modified it 4 hours ago, you can establish a new one after 30 days. I touched my face with my palms. Their account was compromised. Tears ran down my face from fear and hatred. I could not bear to bury my spouse and to lose what we had worked so hard for in only 2 days. I heard a big smash at the front door all of a sudden. I raced home to witness my sister-in-law and mother-in-law breaking into my home. "What are you doing?" I shouted. Chloe laughed, just like Patricia did. "Well, we're aware that you've already deduced that we're in possession of all the funds. Yes, sweetie, we're also taking this house, and I'm sorry to tell you that." Chloe laughed and took a seat on my couch, caressing the fabric with her hands. "Ah yes, this will be mine." Grinning, Patricia started to go around the living area, taking possession of everything. "Will you just stop treating me like this? Please return our money to me," I begged. "Why would we do that, poor girl?" "My kid is dead because of you," Patricia said icily. I was taken aback by her charge. What topic was she discussing? That was really absurd. "That is untrue. I stuck with him no matter what, even if you two disregarded our pleas for assistance. Do you recall the occasions when I knocked on your home to seek for assistance for your son, and you simply ignored me? Your brutality was the cause of his demise." My mother-in-law gave me a forceful smack. I was unable to sense the agony. Chloe pulled me to the ground while grabbing my hair. She said, "You have no right to talk to us like that." "I was just expressing the truth," I answered. Chloe's angry face twisted as she kicked me and yanked my hair up. "You ought to be by yourself in this world. You're a mess and a shame. My brother abandoned you for that reason." I was thrown to the ground and taken outside by her. "Please don't return to this house. You have no right here since it is now ours. You, Morin, go mend your ruined life." With a loud bang, she closed the door behind her, drawing neighbors outside to exchange whispers. I sensed their criticism. I had no idea what to do. I was inconsolable. I wanted my hubby was here to keep an eye on me. Despite the discomfort from my fall, I was able to get up and move on. I didn't have any money or a phone with me. I was bewildered and very terrified. I kept walking till I came to a phone booth and realized my brother's number. I was lucky that the booth provided free international calling. I phoned the number, and he answered after a few rings. "Hello, Marco here." "Who is this?" "Marco, oh my God, it's me, Elena." I started crying because I was unable to suppress my feelings. "Elena? Hi, how are you doing? Why are you using this number to call? Are you okay? Please provide a hand." Chloe and Patricia broke into our home and compromised my account. They took all of our money. "Not at all. Where are you at this moment?" "I live in the open. I have no idea where to go. I have no money at all." "Okay, tell me about the location. I'll give Sophia a call and she will come get you." "Do you get it?" "Yes." He assured me that Sophia would arrive in a short while after I told him where I was. I stood in the sun for about 30 minutes, feeling weak and on the verge of giving up. Hope finally broke through when I noticed Sophia driving over. She gave me an embrace and I instantly passed out. When I awoke, Sophia was covering me with a blanket. "What happened?" I questioned haltingly. "You fainted. For now, take it easy. We will discuss when you recover." I did as she said, ate, took my medication, and went to bed. While my brother was on FaceTime, I told Sophia everything when I felt more confident. Marco was occupied with his computer, as I had explained. He let out a gasp. He cried out, "This can't be possible. What is it? They were my clients. I couldn't figure it out. How? Their true names were not used. You mentioned things that seemed familiar, so I checked right away. I was correct when I said that your sister-in-law and mother-in-law wanted me to fix a system that was linked to your bank account. I am entirely to blame for this. No, Marco, you too were a victim. However, we must pursue justice. For their savagery, they ought to pay a price. Sophia concurred. They can't get away with this. The issue was that we lacked any evidence. Be at ease, Marco assured everyone. I'm on it. We spent 2 days working non-stop to obtain proof. Marco was working on the opposite side of the screen, and Sophia was helping me. We continued to monitor our development via video calls. Marco was sitting in front of his computer, with several displays showing code on them. With a frantic fury, he continued to examine the facts. I inquired, "Any progress?" "Yes, Elena. I have a good deal of proof." I was able to access their email accounts and saw exchanges where they talked about their plans. He presented me with the money transactions and damning emails between Patricia and Chloe. The work of my brother astounded me. I said, they thought they could get away with this. As my determination grew, we need to expose them. The 3 of us collaborated on a strategy later that evening. We created a strong statement to go along with the proof in an effort to get support and notice from the general public. "We're all set," Marco declared. "I'll post everything on social media and make sure the world knows." I felt uneasy. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Elena. We must pursue justice and increase awareness." Sophia and I headed to a coffee shop the following day, excitedly anticipating the outcome of our strategy. What if no one pays attention? Nervous, I asked. "Never fear. We have recruited the help of pals with well-known social media profiles. It'll get around like wildfire," Sophia told me. The TV music abruptly changed to a breaking news story. Sophia and I were shocked to see the anchors covering the controversy, showcasing the faces of Patricia and Chloe together with the supporting documentation. We had no idea that our post had already gained a lot of attention. The public was incensed and the police became engaged. I got a call from the police department. Chloe and Patricia had been placed under arrest. With shocked expressions on their faces, Patricia and Chloe were brought inside the police station while we watched the news. There was a great media frenzy. Reporters yelled questions, but Patricia didn't answer, and Chloe seemed overtaken by the weight of their deeds. I talked to my brother once I got home. He declared, "Danny, justice will be served." I grinned and my mom showed up on the TV shortly after. I sobbed uncontrollably when I saw her. Unhappy with my life right now. Even though I miss my spouse, I'm confident that being independent will help me develop and get better.
Laid up with a high fever, so weak I couldn't move, I asked my eldest son to bring me a glass of water. I thought he would at least do this much for me. But instead, he brought a glass full of beer and splashed it on me as I lay bedridden. From the direction of the door, I heard laughter. There she was, my son's wife, clapping and laughing. My eldest son joined in, holding the empty cup. I couldn't believe it. Despite my feverish and dazed state, that scene burned clearly into my memory. "Clean the house by the time we get back, huh?" I had tolerated Mark and his wife's selfishness up to now, but this was too much. "Yes, I will clean it," I said, enduring the pain in my throat so they could hear me. "My name is Helen. I'm a 73-year-old housewife. My husband George, 75, is now retired and teaches calligraphy to children at a nearby community center. He had always dreamed of opening a calligraphy class after retirement, and it made me happy to see him realize his dream and head to the center with a smile every day. We have 2 sons. Our younger son is married with 2 elementary school-age children. However, our 44-year-old eldest son, Mark, was unmarried and living with us. He works part-time at a convenience store at night, but only about 4 days a week. He doesn't contribute any money to the household and leads a lazy life. Despite several warnings from both my husband and me, Mark didn't listen. He wasn't gambling or in debt. So eventually, we stopped warning him. One day, out of the blue, Mark announced he got married and brought his wife home without even greeting us. She barged in as if it was the most natural thing in the world. From that day on, I had to prepare meals for her as well. I didn't mind cooking for her, but she didn't help at all. Nor did she clean up after meals or even say thank you. She even demanded a cup of coffee after dinner. My husband, unable to watch any longer, harshly warned them, and they stopped making unreasonable demands in his presence. However, when he wasn't around, she would start again, asking me to take her dress to the cleaners and other such requests. When I warned her, Mark would take her side, saying, "It's just something you can do on your way to shopping. Don't be so stingy." Despite feeding both Mark and his wife for free, they never contributed a penny to the household. Their demands seemed unreasonable, but I hesitated to talk to my husband about it, not wanting to cause a parent-child quarrel. So I decided to wait and see a little longer. Today, as per my daughter-in-law's request, I took her clothes to the cleaners. My husband and I usually visit our younger son's family in Canada about twice a year. We were planning to visit again during the upcoming week-long federal holiday. Since we visit frequently and they also occasionally come to see us, our grandchildren have become very fond of us. We had already bought toys as gifts and were planning to buy a roll cake as a souvenir. When visiting our son's family, we often take the sleeper train rather than the plane, enjoying the scenery along the journey. Now that we have more leisure time, the train ride soothes us better. The day before our visit, feeling unusually excited, I went shopping after seeing my husband off to his regular calligraphy class. On my way back, I stopped by a cake shop where they sold handmade cookies. Figuring the cookies would last longer than the cake, I bought some for the grandchildren. As I made my way home, it began to drizzle. Hurrying home, the rain gradually became heavier. I decided to stop by a nearby convenience store to buy an umbrella. But by the time I arrived, my clothes were soaked. I considered waiting out the rain at the store, but not knowing when it would stop and wanting to warm up my chilled body in a hot bath, I bought an umbrella and hurried home. When I got home and was about to take a bath, my eldest son's wife came in and said, "Helen, are you about to take a bath? I have to go out now. Let me use the bath first. Helen, please start preparing dinner early," and she closed the bathroom door behind her, even though it wasn't her house. I changed clothes and started preparing dinner, trying to ignore her. While cooking, I started sneezing. It would be bad if I caught a cold right before our departure tomorrow. But my eldest son's wife, who had been in the bath for a long time, did not come out for over an hour. The next morning, the day we were supposed to visit our second son's family, I woke up feeling sluggish. My throat hurt and my nose was running. When I checked my temperature, it was 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Realizing that I had indeed caught a cold from yesterday's rain, I told George to go alone this time because I didn't want to pass my cold on to the grandchildren. George suggested canceling the visit, but we already had the sleeper train tickets. We also had the toys we bought as gifts for the grandchildren. So I insisted George visit our second son's family, even if it was just him. I gave him the cookies I bought at the cake shop the day before. Despite George's concern, I reassured him that it was just a slight fever and a minor cold, and that I would be okay after taking some medicine and resting at home. George usually doesn't talk much to our eldest son and his wife, but that day he told them I was feeling under the weather and made them promise to take care of the housework. After seeing George off with a smile, I was about to go back to bed when I heard my eldest son and his wife talking. "Oh, such a hassle. It's just a cold, right? But now that Dad's gone, we can be free for a while." I couldn't believe this was coming from the people who were living in our house without contributing to the expenses. But it was typical for them. You do realize the only reason you're able to live here is thanks to your father, right? When I pointed this out, Mark and his wife took offense, retorting, "We're doing you a favor by living with you in your old age." That's right. Normally, everyone hates living with their in-laws, my daughter-in-law added. It's ironic, as they're the ones who moved in with us without being asked. Yet they act as though they're doing us a huge favor. Despite feeling sluggish and wanting to rest, I ignored the remarks and returned to my room. That evening, my daughter-in-law came into my room and woke me up. "Mother-in-law, you're not planning on skipping cooking just because you're feeling a little sick, are you? You know I can't cook, right?" Telling your mother-in-law to cook because you can't isn't something a 35-year-old woman should say. I was feeling sick and wanted them to figure out their meals themselves. Even my husband should have warned them before leaving in the morning. I tried to ignore them and go back to sleep, but my daughter-in-law wouldn't leave the room. I thought it would be better to eat something light and take medicine, so I forced myself to get up and head to the kitchen to prepare some food. As I was preparing the meal, Mark came home. Despite seeing me in the kitchen wearing a mask, he didn't utter a word, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. Not only that, but he also demanded, "Hey, the bath isn't ready yet." It didn't matter to Mark and his wife whether I was sick or not. Knowing they wouldn't listen anyway and wanting to rest as soon as possible, I finished preparing the meal and went to prepare the bath. When I returned to the living room, Mark and his wife were having a lively conversation while eating. "We're going on a trip abroad the day after tomorrow, so please don't spread your cold to us." Surprised by their sudden mention of a trip abroad, I ate a light meal in the dining room, away from the warm living room, as my daughter-in-law suggested. In the living room, the couple was excited about their upcoming trip abroad. Mark was taking time off his part-time job, and they were going on a 3-week trip to Europe. I hadn't heard anything about them going on a trip abroad, but I was grateful they wouldn't be home starting the day after tomorrow. On the morning of the day Mark and his wife were about to leave for their trip, my cold had worsened to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. When I measured my temperature with the thermometer, I had nearly a 103-degree Fahrenheit fever. I was thirsty, but my headache was so severe that I couldn't even lift my head. In this state, Mark came to me. "Hey, cook us some food. You can still cook even if you have a cold." Tears welled up in my eyes at the sight of my son telling his sick mother to cook. "Eat out," I managed to say. At my words, Mark frowned but said nothing and started to leave the room. Before he left, I asked him to bring me a glass of water. I thought he would at least do that much for me, so I waited. But what Mark brought me was a glass full of beer, and he splashed that beer all over me as I lay bedridden with a high fever. From the direction of the door, a loud laughter echoed. When I turned to look, it was my eldest son's wife, clapping her hands in amusement. In front of me, my son Mark was also laughing, holding the empty cup. It was unbelievable. Although I was feverish and dazed, that sight burned clearly into my memory. "Make sure you clean the house before we get back, haha." I had tolerated Mark and his wife's selfishness up to now, but I couldn't stand it any longer. "Yes, I'll keep it clean," I mustered the strength to say loud enough for them to hear despite the pain in my throat. After that, Mark and his wife cheerfully left the house. I didn't even have the energy to wipe the beer-soaked mess from my face, and I fell asleep as I was. When I woke up, I felt somewhat refreshed, though my head was groggy. I remembered being splashed with beer by Mark, but surprisingly, I didn't feel sticky at all. The covers on my bed were also changed. Just as I was questioning what had happened, my husband George came in with a basin. Seeing me sitting up, he placed his hand on my forehead and asked, "Are you okay?" "Why is George here? Wasn't he supposed to be with our second son's family?" I tried to ask but couldn't voice it out. Noticing my confusion, George began to explain. He had taken a sleeper train to visit our second son's family, but he was worried about me and decided to return early. He didn't trust Mark and his wife to take care of me. Our second son's family also suggested he hurry back, so he flew home. When he arrived, he found me lying exhausted in bed with a strange smell of beer lingering around. He quickly cleaned my face with a damp towel, tidied up the area, and cared for me while I slept for a full day. When George asked me what had happened, I tried to explain, but my voice failed me. The memory of being splashed with beer by Mark brought tears to my eyes. Seeing this, George brought me some water and said, "Sorry, I shouldn't have asked you now. Just rest for now." He then went to prepare me some porridge. It turned out he had prepared the porridge so it would be ready whenever I woke up. The kindness of George brought tears to my eyes again. Thanks to George's care, I regained my energy in about 2 days. When I told George what had happened while he was gone, his face turned stern. "I can't stand it anymore." "Yes, me too." 3 weeks passed since Mark and his wife left for their overseas trip. While I was enjoying peaceful days with George, my phone rang. It was a call from Mark. "Here it comes," I said, pressing the answer button. "What the hell? Why is our house gone?" "Well, didn't you say to clean the house?" After I recovered from the cold, I told George everything about Mark and his wife's actions. How they forced a sick me to take care of things, how they threw beer on me while I was bedridden with a high fever, and how they went on an overseas trip themselves. After hearing my story, George muttered, "I can't stand it anymore." Until now, I had always been the one to calm George down. But after this incident, I didn't feel like pacifying him anymore because I myself couldn't forgive them. Actually, George and I had been secretly planning to build a new house without telling our eldest son and his wife. The house isn't finished yet, but we moved into a monthly rental apartment and sold our house in order to stun them with the news. We have been told that someone wanted to buy our land to build a shop, so the sale happened quickly. Originally, we had planned to keep the old house for our eldest son and his wife. But after the way they treated us, there was no need to consider them anymore. The place has already been turned into an empty lot, so they must have been shocked to find the house gone. The new house will be completed in about 2 weeks. A carpenter we know has allowed us to store our belongings and furniture there in advance as we've explained the situation to him. We disposed of all of our eldest son's and his wife's belongings. When we told them this, our eldest son shouted, "Are you kidding me? I'll report you to the police." His wife was also yelling in the background. At that moment, George took over the phone and I switched it to speaker mode. He said to our eldest son in a low voice, "Go ahead, tell the police. I'll tell them too. You guys threw beer at your sick mother, then went on a vacation abroad, and even forced her to do housework while she was sick. Who do you think is the bigger sinner, you guys or us for disposing of your things?" My husband's face as he spoke to our eldest son was like a villain's. "This has nothing to do with that. Selling the house. Where are we supposed to live? Where are you guys even staying?" Our son yelled back. George replied, "That house was originally ours. It's our right to sell it. Plus, you're no longer our son. Don't contact us anymore." And then he hung up. 2 weeks later, we got a call saying that our new house was completed, so George and I headed over. The call was from the carpenter, a friend of George's. He's about 60 years old and the site supervisor. He showed us around the house, explaining the layout. We designed it as a single-story accessible house, keeping our future retirement life in mind. It's an even more beautiful house than we imagined, and we couldn't wait to start living there. The furniture we had left in the living room had been moved by the carpenters. When I thanked them, they said, "No problem. George really helped us out back in the day, so this is nothing." And so the two of us, George and I, started living in our new house. The house was even more comfortable than we had imagined, and our life was peaceful without our eldest son and his wife around. However, about a month after we moved into the new house, our devilish eldest son and his wife showed up. Neither George nor I had told them our address, and our younger son Mark and his wife shouldn't have told them either because we explained the situation. They'd probably hired a detective or something to find us. "Hey, it's not fair for you to sell the house, dispose of our stuff, and then move to such a nice place by yourselves. As your eldest son, I have the right to live here, don't I?" Our son said, glaring at us with large bags in his hands. We had intended to cut off ties with them, but we were stunned to see our eldest son and his wife, who were clearly intent on moving in. Just then, voices came from the back of the house. "What are you guys here for? To what end? After taking our living place, how dare you ask such a thing? From today, we're living here too," our son said. As they were about to step in, the front door opened. "Huh, Mark? What are you doing here? Here to cause trouble again? Come on, you're old enough to stand on your own 2 feet, Stephen said with a look of disbelief on his face. Beside him were his wife and their 2 grandchildren. They were visiting because the new house had just been finished. After relaxing at home for a while, Stephen's family had gone to a nearby convenience store. "Who is that? Are they bad people?" 5th grader Sophia asked innocently. My husband, who had just been about to drive Mark and his wife away, suddenly had an idea. "While Stephen's family is staying for a week, you two should also stay here. I won't allow you to squat here indefinitely, though." With that, he welcomed everyone at the entrance into the house. The living room gathered, and the first to lounge on the sofa were Mark and his wife. "Man, I'm beat. Mother-in-law, can I have some coffee?" "I'll take mine black," Mark said casually. Stephen's wife was taken aback by the casually made request of Mark and his wife. At this, the grandchildren rushed to Mark and his wife. Why can't you two do that yourselves when you're adults? Even I, a kid, can pour my own juice. The innocent comments of the grandchildren made Mark's wife uncomfortable, and she went to pour her own coffee. However, the grandchildren's why attacks continued. Why can't you cook even though you're an adult woman? My mom can cook anything. Why don't you clean up after yourself? Both my dad and I always clean up the plates when we're done eating. Why can't you do that? My sister and I always do it ourselves. The grandchildren, perhaps due to the good upbringing by Stephen's wife, were responsible and often helped her. Stephen also didn't just leave everything to his wife, they worked together. Therefore, it was probably perplexing for the grandchildren that Mark and his wife didn't do anything themselves. At first, Mark and his wife had retorted, but the why attacks didn't stop, and by the end of the week, they were both exhausted. Mark's wife in particular seemed to dislike being called auntie. "Don't call me auntie," she told her grandchildren in earnest. But when they replied, "Why not? You're an auntie, aren't you? You're not young enough to be called sister," she was shocked. Even I and Stephen, who were listening nearby, couldn't help but laugh. After Stephen and his wife left, we sent Mark and his wife away. They were worn out by the children's incessant why attacks, so we were able to drive them away without much resistance. However, a few months later, we received a message asking, "Can you lend us some money?" Up until now, they had been staying in our home, eating our food without paying a cent in rent or living expenses. Since Mark, our oldest son, was making enough money from his convenience store job to cover all expenses, it wasn't a problem at all. Now that they had been kicked out of the house, Mark and his wife were supposed to start paying for their own rent and living expenses. Yet, they kept spending money as they used to, seemingly living off borrowed money without any savings to speak of. Their only income was Mark's salary from working at a convenience store 4 days a week. Mark's wife seemed to have no intention of working. Considering their situation, it was audacious to say the least for them to ask, "Can you lend us some money?" "We will never lend you money in the future, nor will we help you," we told them, and then blocked Mark's number. A few days later, while my husband and I were out, we received a call on my husband's phone from our home security company. There was an intruder in our house, and they sent us the video footage. It turned out that Mark and his wife were trying to sneak into our house through a window. It was pitiful that they were resorting to breaking into their parents' house to steal money because they were broke. At least they hadn't caused trouble for others, but that's not saying much. Mark and his wife were quickly apprehended by the security and were taken away by the police, who were called to the scene. They were released because they were family, but not before being harshly scolded. Since then, Mark and his wife stopped forcing their way into our house or trying to break in. We have both blocked their calls, so we never receive phone calls from them. According to Stephen, our second son, he also received a request for money from Mark. Apparently, Mark had borrowed money from loan sharks and was now on the run because he couldn't pay it back. "You reap what you sow. Pay back the money you borrowed yourself," Stephen said, and blocked Mark's number as well. We don't know what happened to Mark and his wife after that, but we chose to forget about the people who left us as they poured beer over a sick person with no involvement with Mark and his wife. My husband and I are enjoying our peaceful everyday lives. My husband used to teach calligraphy classes at the nearby community center, but now he teaches at home in a room we designed for that purpose. When Stephen and his family come to visit, the grandchildren and other children take calligraphy classes together, and they seem to be having a good time making friends. I am grateful for these peaceful days and am making the most of each day. The room fell silent at her words, and the adults exchanged uncertain glances. My sister, attempting to diffuse the tension, was about to intervene, but I stopped her. "Why?" she asked. "Because the lumberjack is giving him a scary look and I can't see his face. There's too much hair. I'm Sophia. We live as a family of 5, my parents, my sister, and my niece. My sister lost her partner to illness and returned home with my 2-year-old niece, Emma. Since then, we've all pitched in to raise Emma. Luckily, I work from home, so I take care of Emma during the day while my parents and sister are busy. I own my own company but don't have any employees. I started it by myself and generate income from a game app I developed during my student days. It became popular, and subsequent app releases have been consistently successful. Now I have a stable income. My sister worries about me, a recluse who rarely leaves the house. Sophia, you know you could move out, right? Why would I? Isn't it time for you to experience living alone or something? Not really. Are you worried about us? Huh? You've been helping with Emma since we moved back. With your income, you could afford a fancy city apartment. A city apartment? No thanks. But enough. What's your point? You're still young. What about romance? Romance? Not interested. Being with Emma is all the comfort I need, so don't worry about me. And it's true, I adore my niece. I've never had any interest in romantic relationships. I just want to be there for Emma, who is the child of my sister, whom I deeply respect. I openly admit I really care about my sister and would do anything for her. I've even chased away countless worthless guys who approached my sister like a loyal dog. Among them, my brother-in-law was the only one I thought I could trust to take care of my sister. Losing him was hard on her, and I want to be there for her. Both my sister and Emma mean the world to me. My niece is quite mysterious. When we spend time together, she occasionally does something odd. When she was just 2 years old, she would suddenly wave her hand as if saying goodbye. Initially, I thought she was dancing along with the TV, but she did it even when the TV was off, laughing as she waved. I mentioned this to my sister, but she couldn't recall any relevant incidents. One day, I asked my niece, "Are you saying goodbye to someone?" She nodded. Then, in the next moment, she pointed behind me. My spine involuntarily stiffened. A child waving at nothing, stories like that circulate. Things unseen by adults are visible to children. But having her point behind me was unsettling. Still, my niece's laughter reassured me. When she started speaking, I asked her, "Who are you waving to?" "A lumberjack." "A lumberjack? Who?" She loves books, and lately she's been asking me to read stories about lumberjacks. I understood that she saw someone resembling a lumberjack. Now it's routine for her to wave at this unseen figure, and my fear has faded. When my niece turned 8, the lumberjack's true identity was revealed. That summer, during a visit to my maternal grandparents' house, I was cleaning the storage shed. My niece, eager to help, pointed at a photograph in the shed. "Look, it's the lumberjack," she exclaimed. "The lumberjack?" "Yes, it's the lumberjack." Confused, I studied the photo she indicated. "This person is the lumberjack." She nodded. "Yes, he visits you sometimes." I chuckled. "Actually, that's not the lumberjack. He's your mom's and my grandpa, and instead of a lumberjack, he was a hunter." "What's a hunter?" "Someone who receives the spirit of a bear." "Ah, I see. A hunter looks like a lumberjack," she observed. Indeed, there's a resemblance. The figure my niece saw was my late grandpa. It warmed my heart. My grandpa passed away when I was in middle school, but I was very close to him. He had been a traditional bear hunter and taught me about bear behavior and hunting. Citing the mountain god's wrath, he didn't take me along because I was a young girl. However, I learned how to handle bears and extract oil. Even now, it feels like he's watching over us. During this time, I had an encounter with a certain man. It happened while I was giving a lecture on app development at the request of a friend. The man who approached me, eyes shining as he looked at the app I developed, was Michael. Although he worked as a regular employee in a corporate company, he attended the lecture because he wanted to explore app development as a side gig. "Can I create popular apps like you, man?" "Well, once you learn the programming languages, it's mostly a matter of practice. There's limitless potential." We exchanged only a few words initially, but afterward, I became close to him as he attended my lectures repeatedly, and we eventually started dating. Until then, I had no interest in romance, but his graceful demeanor captivated me. One day, Michael asked me to meet him at a nearby cafe because he had something to discuss. As soon as I arrived, I noticed the weight on his shoulders. "I'm sorry for bothering you when you're busy, but I needed to see you." His story was heavy. His mother was seriously ill with little time left. There was a chance that advanced medical treatment could save her, but it required funds. Unfortunately, without insurance, he couldn't afford it. It's a tough situation. With $35,000, I might be able to help my mom. I encouraged him, "Please do whatever you can. And remember, sometimes just talking about it can ease the burden." But then he hesitated, saying, "Still, $35,000 isn't easy to come by." He'd been working for over 10 years, so not having $35,000 in savings seemed surprising. Saving $3,500 per year shouldn't be too difficult given your job. Michael, don't you have any money after all these years? No, it's not like that, but $35,000 feels like a huge sum. Sorry, I still don't understand. Do you have $35,000 or not? Michael hesitated and then said, yes, I do. Well then, it's not a problem. Use it for your mom as soon as possible, I reassured him. Unexpectedly, he changed the topic. If I use that money, we won't be able to have a wedding, will we? Surprised, I asked. What? Michael confessed. I want to marry you, Sophia. It was an unforeseen proposal. Marriage, something I hadn't actively considered, suddenly felt significant. But right now, there were more pressing matters. Sure, if I were to get married, I'd want it to be with you. But I'm not the type for big weddings, so I think a simple engagement party would suffice. Even though we call it an engagement, it's really just a formality. We can just gather our families for a meal. So go ahead and use that $35,000 for your mom. I have a decent income too, so there won't be any financial worries after we're married. You can rest assured. Thank you, he replied. 3 months after that incident, I was relieved to hear that Michael's mother began to recover thanks to advanced medical treatment. Once again, Michael proposed marriage, and I accepted. I had thought we would visit each other's parents' homes to exchange greetings. However, since his parents' house is company housing and they'd like to avoid becoming the subject of neighborhood gossip, we decided not to visit their house. Instead, we held the meeting at a restaurant to avoid inconveniencing him. I also refrained from inviting him to my home. My parents, Michael, and I all gathered at another restaurant. Afterward, we would celebrate our engagement with a private family meal, and both sides agreed to proceed with the wedding. However, it was during this gathering that my niece made a surprising statement. On that day, my niece was unusually restless from mourning. When I asked her why, she claimed that the hunter was moving around more than she'd ever seen. I tried to stay positive, thinking maybe my grandpa was nervous about my wedding. But when we arrived at the restaurant and took our seats, my niece spoke up before any greetings. You should reconsider this guy, she said. The room fell silent. The adults wore indescribable expressions. My sister attempted to diffuse the tension, but I stopped her. Why? My sister asked. Because the hunter is giving him a scary look and I can't see his face. There's too much hair, my niece replied. Michael shot an uncomfortable glance at my niece. Children have vivid imaginations, don't they? Maybe it's from TV. He attempted to lighten the mood, but his smile vanished, leaving him pale. Perhaps anyone would find my niece unusual upon first meeting her. Still, in that moment, I sensed Michael's narrow-mindedness as he twisted his face at a child. I see. Maybe reconsider this guy. The hunter has been standing in front of you, Sophia, all this time. He's been brushing away the hair that keeps growing from this guy's head, and a white dog is angry. She pointed at Michael's mother. A dog? I asked. Yes, the hair growing from his head has been bothering the white dog, my niece explained. Michael's mother's expression changed abruptly, and she immediately began apologizing. I apologize. I don't need the money anymore. Consider this job non-existent. Job? Both my parents and I were puzzled, but it was Michael who responded with a barrage of insults. Dan it, fulfill your role properly. I'll refund the money. I shouldn't have taken this job. I apologize. Your fault. It's all ruined. Enough. I won't allow hurtful words toward my loved ones. Now what's going on? I demanded. The truth revealed by his mother left us all dumbfounded. As it turns out, the person I believed to be Michael's mother was actually a hired staff member, a jack of all trades. In other words, she wasn't his mother. She knew it was wrong, but tempted by the money, she accepted the request. Despite her desperate apologies, I couldn't bring myself to blame her. At this point, marriage was the least of our concerns. But Michael was determined to salvage the situation. Tearfully, he said, Sophia, I'm truly sorry for lying. But please understand, my mom couldn't be here due to her hospitalization. I truly care about you, and that's why I asked someone to play the role of my mom. My feelings for you are genuine. Please believe me. His eyes pleaded with me. No, it's impossible, I replied. I replied without hesitation. What kind of marriage starts with a lie? Is this some B movie? This is real life. I won't marry under false pretenses. Let's consider this marriage null and void. Michael sighed and took a different approach. Fine, guess it's over. You're stingy anyway. What? Normally you'd help pay for your partner's mother's medical expenses. To you, $35,000 isn't a big deal. No, it's an enormous sum, I corrected him. That's why I called you stingy. I thought marriage would give me financial freedom. Well, if there's no marriage, then I guess I don't need to be here anymore. You're truly creepy. Wait. Michael was about to utter hurtful words to my niece again, but in that instant he scratched his neck and collapsed. In a hurry, we called an ambulance. When they asked about family members, there was no one there for Michael, so he was taken to the hospital alone. My niece chimed in. His hair was tangled around his neck, so it must have been painful. The tense atmosphere seemed to tighten even more. The white dog is smiling. That's great, my niece said to the woman who would pose as Michael's mother. She had been single and owned a dog. Recently, her dog had passed away, and she couldn't bear the loneliness. She had been working in a job that left her feeling desperate and burdened with guilt. However, now she was determined to find a proper job. After apologizing repeatedly, she left the restaurant. Well, he was after my money, it seems. How embarrassing. I apologize for inconveniencing everyone, I said, laughing nervously. My niece beamed, but my parents and sister remained unsmiling. Emma, can you really see these things? My sister asked. My parents and sister were more fascinated by my niece than by the fact that my marriage had fallen through. Well, I guess it's true sometimes. That lightens the heart. Is anyone with Mom? My sister continued. No one. Ah, I see. Well, let's eat a feast and then go home. It's my treat. Ultimately, we ended up having a family dinner and then returned home. Emma, thank you for today, I said to my niece after returning home, but she seemed contemplative. We shouldn't tell lies. Huh. Because I lied to Mom. What? There's always Dad by Mom's side, but it's a secret. Why? Dad is watching over Mom silently. I see, he must want to protect both you and Mom. From that moment on, my niece stopped mentioning what she could see. The adults around her, including me, avoided the topic. Although I hadn't seen Michael since he was taken to the hospital, 6 months had passed. One day, while watching TV, I nearly choked on my tea. The program featured women who had fallen victim to marriage scams. They united, hired detectives, and sought refunds from the con artists. The mosaic-covered scammer on screen looked unmistakably like Michael. The same tactics, claiming his mother had a terminal illness and needed advanced medical treatment, had ensnared women, some of whom had given over $70,000. Wow, I'm relieved I wasn't fooled. Thank you, Emma, my niece was smiling. 10 years later, my niece turned 18, and I entered my 40s. But a new encounter awaited me. Does marriage hold any meaning for me now, past the age of 40? Lost in thought, my niece approached and whispered, Sophia, this time it's genuine. You'll definitely be happy. Congratulations. Huh? 6 months later, I married and left my parents' home, enjoying blissful days. My niece had saved me countless times, and whether or not she possessed mysterious abilities, she remained dear to me. As an aunt who had received so much help, I genuinely wished for her happiness. Marriage scams are despicable. I hope victims receive their refunds swiftly. Let's strive to live honestly and righteously. I've been kicked out of the house. Can you let me stay just for tonight? What? You were kicked out? Grandpa, come live with us. Really? Are you sure? My father-in-law had been treated terribly by his son and daughter-in-law, and was finally kicked out of their house. We decided to have him live with us in our family-run sushi restaurant. I'm Emma, 40 years old, and my husband Ethan is 2 years older. We were high school sweethearts but separated when we started working. I thought it was over between us, but Ethan returned to our hometown a few years later and proposed, saying he wanted to be with me forever. We got married, and things have been going pretty well. Our daughter Lily is in the 3rd grade, and we're a close-knit family of 3. We run a sushi restaurant together, Ethan's lifelong dream. However, it's not doing as well as we'd like, and we're trying to figure out how to make it more successful. It's pretty good, and we do have customers, but there's nothing extraordinary about it. We'd like to try advertising on trendy social media, but we just don't have the time right now. Today we are visiting Ethan's brother and sister-in-law. To be honest, I've never really liked them. Even now, they are acting aloof. When Ethan offered them some sushi we brought as a gift, his brother reacted harshly. "Brother, I've included some new ingredients. Try it and let me know what you think." "Hey, don't bring that stuff here. I only eat sushi from high-end restaurants." "Well, you don't have to be so mean. Father-in-law can eat it." Honestly, what a way for a couple to talk. Since my mother-in-law passed away, father-in-law has been living with them, so we visit occasionally to see him. I've noticed that they treat him worse and worse each time. "Ethan, Emma, thank you. I'll enjoy it later. I'll make some coffee now," father-in-law said, who had been playing with our daughter, coming over. "Wait, father-in-law, that's expensive coffee for guests. Don't use it on family." "Dad, don't touch anything. Mia told you not to go into the kitchen." "But you two aren't even offering coffee when your younger brother's family has come over." "We were just about to do it." "Oh, be quiet. It's annoying enough having you here every day." "We don't eat coffee. Instead, please try the sushi. I'd love to hear what you think with your refined tastes." I intervened, trying to be as gentle as possible. "Emma, it must be tough running a sushi restaurant with a brother like this. You need to brush up or you'll never be successful." Brush? No use using English words. A failing sushi restaurant must be drowning in debt and on the brink of bankruptcy, his sister-in-law continued. "We do have debt, but we are paying it off little by little," my husband snapped back. Ignoring my husband, she continued to me, "You should have married an elite banker like me. It's sad how different the two brothers turned out." "Exactly. If you followed my lead, you'd have a better life. A sushi restaurant from a dream since you were fishing with that." She trailed off. "Both of you, stop it. Why do you keep saying such awful things?" Father-in-law spoke up unusually sternly. It seemed that my brother-in-law and his wife couldn't forgive father-in-law for defending us. I never thought they would go so far. It happened that night. The doorbell rang just after 10 p.m. when our daughter was asleep. "Who could it be at this hour?" "I'll get it," my husband said as he went to the door. "Dad, what's going on?" I rushed over when I heard his surprised voice. "Oh, I'm sorry for coming at this hour. I've been kicked out of the house. I hate to ask so suddenly, but could you let me stay just for tonight?" "What? You were kicked out?" He told us that after we left my brother-in-law's house, this had happened. "Hey, Dad, what was that earlier?" Defending Ethan and them. "Well, you two were saying such terrible things. You know we are only taking care of you because we have to, right? It's a nuisance. We've been looking after you because you helped with the down payment for this condo. But isn't it enough?" "Yeah, we've let you live comfortably." "You two felt that way. I offered to cook and clean, but you told me not to do anything. But we don't want you touching the kitchen or anything. Let's just call it quits, shall we? Why don't you go live with your beloved younger son?" "Yeah." We were outraged when we heard this. What? Is that unbelievable? I've been concerned about my brother and sister-in-law's attitude, but this is the worst. I felt the same way. I can't forgive them anymore. Anyway, it's late, and we have to get up early tomorrow, so let's go to bed. Father-in-law, please warm up in the shower. I'll prepare the bed in the meantime. Thank you, Emma. I'm sorry. The next morning, our daughter was surprised to see her grandfather. "Grandpa, what are you doing here?" "Good morning, Lily. Sorry for coming so suddenly." "Why, I'm happy. Let's play when I get back from school." She's been fond of her grandfather since she was a baby, and they've always been close. "Mom, did something happen to Grandpa at that house?" "Oh well, a little. A 9-year-old girl is sharp and understands many things. He's always bullied at that house, and it's sad. Can't he live with us?" "What?" "Grandpa, come live with us." That night, our family unanimously decided to have father-in-law live with us. We had been worried about my brother-in-law and his wife looking down on father-in-law. But we couldn't forgive such terrible treatment. We had considered living with father-in-law before, but were concerned about what the family would say and couldn't bring it up. However, my husband was delighted and thanked me. We were most concerned about what our daughter would think, but she was the one who brought it up. So we were surprised. With that settled, it was time to act. My husband called his brother to report, but instead of apologizing, both my brother-in-law and his wife were thrilled. And so father-in-law became a member of our family. A few days later, father-in-law said he wanted to work at the sushi restaurant. It could be in lieu of rent. "Don't worry about that. I've always loved cooking, and I actually worked at a sushi restaurant when I was young. Really? Before Ethan was born. And so father-in-law began to help out in the back of the sushi restaurant. Ethan, can I talk to you for a second? I think this fish might be better if we use kombucha. Huh? Which one? Also, could you listen to me for a moment? There are a few things I'm concerned about. Perhaps because they were father and son, father-in-law was sharing his thoughts with my husband one after another. His advice seemed spot on, and my husband agreed to change the preparation method for some of the sushi. Gradually, the number of customers began to increase. Online reviews increased, the taste improved, and the restaurant looked cleaner, receiving high praise. Sales also steadily grew. Thanks to father-in-law, our sushi restaurant was able to change for the better. Father-in-law wasn't always at the restaurant, so I felt relieved that my daughter's time alone decreased, and the two seemed to enjoy eating and reading together. But about 6 months later, an incident occurred. My brother-in-law and his wife barged in. Dad! Noah and Mia too. What's going on? We have come to take Dad back. We were so surprised when you really left, even though we were just joking. Yeah, so let's go back quickly. What? What are this couple talking about? My husband and I exchanged glances. Noah, a joke? Besides, I'm working at this sushi restaurant, so I can't go back there. That's it. Sales have increased since Dad came here. Now it's a popular restaurant that has a talent for management. Management talent? That's not it. So I'm thinking of starting a sushi restaurant too. I've quit the bank, and the store will open next week. Come back and help me. Wait a minute. You kicked father-in-law out and never contacted him. And now you want him back. That's too convenient. Yeah, brother, don't be selfish. What? You're going against me? I can pull strings to make sure this small shop doesn't get a loan from the bank. What? Is that a threat? Anyway, I could have managed better from the start. You might be doing well now, but you'll probably go downhill soon. What did you say? Calm down, Emma. Father-in-law admonished me when I raised my voice. All right, I'll go back, he said. Father-in-law? Dad. Good, our luxury condominium is better, right? Let's go, my brother-in-law snorted at us. Father-in-law looked into our eyes, nodded once, and left. They came to take Grandpa back. That's weird. They'll bully him again for sure. Our daughter, who had come home and learned what happened, was furious. She was right. After all the terrible treatment, it was unbelievable that they would demand him back now that our shop was doing well. But we endured it, thinking that if father-in-law had decided, we had to accept it. However, a month later, father-in-law appeared before us again. I'm back. Father-in-law, what happened? I got kicked out again. What? It's okay. I expected this. I knew it would happen. My husband and I listened to father-in-law's story about what he had been doing at my brother-in-law's place. It was outrageous. So father-in-law began living with us again, and our daughter was overjoyed. Of course, he also returned to work at the sushi restaurant. Even after father-in-law left, we faithfully practiced his teachings, and sales didn't drop, but it was undoubtedly tough with fewer hands. However, we managed to run the shop efficiently again, and thanks to father-in-law, we could procure fresh and rare fish, and the number of customers kept increasing. Then my brother-in-law and his wife, who had heard about our success, barged in again. They had always manipulated father-in-law for their convenience and looked down on people. I couldn't forgive them anymore. What's going on here? No, what's the matter? What do you mean, what's the matter? Our shop's customers are decreasing while there's a line here. That's because Ethan's sushi is delicious and Emma's service is good, isn't it? We're making it just as you taught us in our shop. Did you teach us a fake recipe? I didn't teach you anything fake. Then why is there such a difference? First of all, who's making the sushi? A friend I hired. We plan to succeed in a high-end sushi restaurant together. You're not telling me that person is an amateur, are you? No way, he has a chef's license. Where did he train, and for how many years? Huh? Training? Are you underestimating sushi chefs? Just having a chef's license doesn't mean you can serve sushi to others. But with that recipe, even this guy wasn't doing well until he was taught by Dad. And then he prospered. What are you talking about, brother? I trained for years to open a sushi restaurant. Even I had to study, prepare, and redo things after opening. I couldn't just serve new sushi right away. Also, you're advertising your shop as a high-end restaurant, right? I saw your website. Even if you could serve the same taste and sushi as us, no one would come if you charge double the price. Why? Even if they come once, if it's expensive and tastes amateur, they won't come again. Isn't that obvious? Hey, don't act so high and mighty. I'm more professional in management. Enough. What? Father-in-law shouted, you may have worked in a bank and know about management, but that's not enough to run a restaurant. For sushi, you need knowledge about fish, how to cut it, how to preserve freshness, and it takes years of training to make sushi. Ethan has spent years learning. But that's why I asked you to write down everything about cutting and shaping with your guidance. My brother-in-law insisted. I did write everything down. I was even planning to guide you if you were serious, but you told me to leave because I was in the way. There's no way someone who was never trained can do it just by looking at a paper, father-in-law replied firmly. Oh, then my sister-in-law chimed in, guidance? Your brother only managed because he trained himself. But father-in-law is just an amateur fish lover acting all high and mighty. Do you have that condescending attitude towards customers too? Huh, I may be an amateur now, but when I was young, before I became a salaryman, I worked at a sushi restaurant. At Sushi Jan no less. That super famous place, even the branches run by disciples who have branched off are now impossible to book at. The master chef of that main shop is now quite a celebrity, which we used to learn together. If that's true, if you worked at such a successful sushi restaurant, there's no way you would have changed jobs to become a salaryman. My sister-in-law retorted. Normally that might be the case, but your mother was frail. Raising a child while working as a sushi chef from early morning to midnight was impossible. When you were born, I changed jobs and became a regular salaryman. No, it's a lie. It's not a lie. You can even check with Sushi January. What? Indeed, the sushi restaurant where father-in-law had worked when he was young had become so famous that no one didn't know about it. Thanks to father-in-law's personality, which had maintained relationships with his old colleagues and mentors, our family was blessed with good things like getting help with fish procurement at the market and learning about rare fish. My husband and I were also surprised that father-in-law's advice was so appropriate. If that's the case, I'll fire the guy I hired. Now I should hire a sushi chef, right? Then Dad and I will make an even more prosperous shop than this one. My brother-in-law, who quickly changed his tune, was firmly told by father-in-law. I'll make it clear. I have no intention of ever going back to your place. What? Why? It's suffocating there with restrictions on what I can touch and do. Living with Ethan and the others, I realized I was stifled. I've been complained about all the time, kicked out, and then called back for your convenience. We won't kick you out anymore, father-in-law's sister-in-law said with a forced smile. Even though you don't want to live together at all, huh? My sister-in-law froze with a pasted-on smile. You just want to call me back because you think it will make money, right? My sister-in-law seemed at a loss for words as father-in-law had hit the nail on the head. As I said earlier, having a manual alone won't do. You need to take time to hone your skills and most importantly, sincerity. You two are utterly lacking in that. But Dad, I apologize for everything so far. My brother-in-law tried to cozy up to father-in-law, trying to smooth things over with mere words. They were indeed a like-minded couple. Brother, it's time to start preparing for the evening business, so please leave. Please take your leave, my husband and I said in succession. You bastards, getting all cocky. I was an elite banker. I'll make sure you don't get any loans from now on. At that moment, the shop's door opened with a clatter. I'm home. Welcome back. Wait, Lily. I was surprised to see my daughter, who usually comes home through the back to our house, appear at the shop's entrance. Was that a threat just now? My daughter looked straight at my brother-in-law and his wife. You came to the shop before and yelled and said terrible things, and before that you bullied Grandpa at home all the time. What? What are you talking about, you cheeky girl? Just like a low-level couple's daughter. Mama, Papa. My friend Hannah's dad is a police officer, so I'll consult with him. Unexpected words came out, and the three of us were surprised. What? My brother-in-law and his wife turned pale. Hannah's dad is a very important person in the police. What? Let's go. We are leaving, brother. It was my innocent daughter's voice that was the last straw. My brother-in-law and his wife scrambled and ran out. Welcome back, Lily. Wow, that was a surprise. Thank you for helping us. Father-in-law looked at our daughter with surprise and tenderness. Sure that Hannah's dad is a police officer. Whether he is important or not, I don't know. I was left speechless by our daughter's nonchalant response. My husband, father-in-law, and I looked at each other and then burst into laughter. After that, my brother-in-law's shop closed down within 6 months. He had said that he quit his job and started the shop with determination, but the reality was slightly different. He had blamed his own mistake on a subordinate, and when it was discovered, he was demoted. Unhappy with the demotion, he quit the bank in a fit of anger. So even when the shop's management didn't go well, there was no one to help him, and he ended up with a massive debt. With that piling up, there was no way that couple could succeed, and they are now embroiled in a messy divorce drama. My brother-in-law seems to be job hunting, but given the way he quit, re-employment in the financial industry is tough. He has no goodwill, so there is no one to help him. On the other hand, our sushi shop has been thriving with a steady increase in customers, and we've paid off all the remaining debt. We've been featured in town magazines and on TV, and more people are sharing about us on social media, so we are busy every day. Of course, father-in-law is also helping out in the shop. I never thought I'd have such a fulfilling life at this age. Thank you so much. On our day off, as we were all eating cake, father-in-law said this with gratitude. We are the ones who should be thanking you. That's right, not just the shop, but even at home, we feel at ease and are helped because father-in-law is here. Thank you for loving Lily as well. Grandpa, let's play Othello. I won't lose today. Our daughter, who finished her cake first, called father-in-law from the living room. There will surely be more challenges ahead. The shop may face difficulties, and living together, we may get on each other's nerves at times. Life is long with its ups and downs. At such times, we'll look at each other and talk it out. If we share what we're all thinking, we'll surely overcome anything. Watching the smiles of our daughter and father-in-law, my husband and I smiled at each other.